He woke up before the sun touched the hills and stepped into the cold morning air that smelled of earth and hay. He had been working on this ranch for years, and every day felt the same heavy weight of other people's expectations and whispers that followed him wherever he went. Everyone seemed to have their own opinion about his worth, and none of them were kind. They called him useless. They laughed at the way he walked through the barnyard slowly and carefully, as if he had no purpose. They said he wasted time with animals no one wanted to care for. They saw the old horse in the backfield and immediately decided it was worthless. Just like him, the horse had been left behind when all the others had gone to new owners or better pastures. Its coat was dull and its movements slow, but there was something about its eyes that made him stay. He could see the spark inside that others ignored. He spent hours brushing the horse until the animal leaned into his hands, and he felt a strange sense of connection. It was quiet work, but it felt right. Even when the town mocked him, he kept returning to the barn in the field. And the horse morning chores started with feeding the cattle and checking the fences. He moved steadily, but quietly. Trying not to draw attention, he felt the stares of the other ranch hands who shook their heads as he worked. They were strong and fast and efficient, and everyone praised them. They said he could never match them, yet he continued doing his work. At his own pace, he had learned long ago that trying to fight the noise around him only left him exhausted. He had to find his own rhythm. He walked to the old horse with a bucket of oats. The horse lifted its head and nickered softly as he approached. It was a small sound, but it felt like a reward for all the lonely mornings. He filled the bucket slowly, and the horse stepped forward. Carefully to eat, he spoke softly to it in a low voice. No one else would hear about the plans he imagined, ways they could surprise everyone with this horse, but only in his mind. The idea of success was still a secret dream that belonged to no one but him. Some of the ranch hands came by and threw careless words over their shoulders. They laughed about the old horse and about him. They said he spent too much time with useless things. They said he should leave the work to those who mattered. He did not respond. He knew their voices were loud but empty. He had learned to protect his thoughts and his patience from the sharpness of ridicule. The days passed slowly with the rhythm of work and the quiet companionship of the old horse. There were moments when he would pause in the middle of a field and just look at the sky or listen to the wind. Moving through the trees, he felt small but not defeated. He believed that there was value in things others overlooked, and he held on to that belief as tightly as he held the reins of the horse. One afternoon, a storm came rolling over the hills dark. Clouds covered the sun, and heavy rain began to fall. He ran to the barn to protect the weaker animals, and the old horse followed him willingly. It shook the water from its coat and nuzzled him, as if it knew he was the only one who truly cared. They waited together for the rain to pass, and in that quiet moment he felt a sense of peace that the world outside the barn could not take. Evenings were the hardest. He returned to the small cabin provided by the ranch. He ate a simple meal in silence and listened to the sounds of the animals settling for the night. Thought about the way people had treated him and the horse, and he allowed himself to feel a flicker of frustration, but he did not let it grow. He reminded himself that this work and this animal were his responsibility and his opportunity. He remembered the first day he met the horse. It had been abandoned, and no one wanted to touch it. Its eyes were full of fear and mistrust, but he had stayed there. Had been a moment when the horse looked directly at him, and he felt a quiet promise pass between them. That promise was that they would both survive and perhaps even find something better in the world together. He had kept that promise every day since. Other ranch hands sometimes made bets about how long he would last with the horse. Some said he would quit and run away. Some said he would give up and sell the animal. He never told them that he planned to see it through. He never told them that he believed in a quiet kind of victory that no one else could understand. Nights were long and filled with dreams of failure and hope. Sometimes he would dream that the horse ran freely across green fields with no fences, and he could see its strength and beauty that others could not see yet. He would also dream of people laughing and shaking their heads at him, and the horse, but he woke with determination still in his chest. He refused to let the opinions of others dictate the life he was building quietly. The bond between the man and the horse grew stronger with each passing day. He learned the subtle ways the horse communicated when it was tired or sick or happy. he learned to anticipate its needs. Before it even moved, its steps became familiar and comforting, like a rhythm of life that the ranch could not provide in its harsh and noisy ways. Winter approached, the work became harder. The ground froze, and the winds cut through the barns and fences, but he continued his routine, feeding the animals. Checking fences, caring for the old horse, he noticed small signs of resilience in the horse that others dismissed as unimportant. It had stamina. It had patience, and it had a will to keep moving forward even when everything else seemed bleak. He could see hope in those steady eyes. He often thought about leaving and finding work elsewhere, but he could not bring himself to abandon the animals who depended on him or the horse, who had no one else. He realized that this struggle was shaping him more than any easy success ever could, and he began to understand that being called useless by others did not mean he was useless. It meant only that they could not see the quiet strength within him. Every small task he completed, and every moment spent with the horse felt like a secret victory. He did not need applause or recognition, only needed to know that he was doing what he could and that he was not alone. The horse was there beside him, silently supporting him in ways no human ever had. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. He continued to rise early and work late. He continued to care for the old horse and the other animals on the ranch, and through it all he held onto a quiet hope that someday someone would see what he saw, that the world might notice that usefulness is not always loud or obvious, and that even the smallest acts of care can lead to something meaningful. And so he kept moving through the work each day, with steady hands and a patient heart, learning slowly that respect is not given by the loudest voices, but earned in the quiet persistence of doing what is right and believing in what others overlook. The winter months passed slowly, and the ranch felt colder and quieter than ever. The man continued to work tirelessly from sunrise to sunset. Every day brought new challenges, from frozen fences to sick animals, but he never allowed himself to complain. The old horse followed him everywhere. Its slow steps matched his own, and its presence made the hard work feel less lonely. One morning, while clearing snow near the creek, he noticed something strange. The horse stopped and sniffed the ground with unusual intensity. It pawed at the frozen soil and nickered softly. The man watched carefully and realized the horse had found a patch of earth that was different. It looked rough and rocky, but there was something hidden underneath. Curiosity sparked in him, and he dug carefully around the area with each scoop of the spade. Small stones turned up, and among them something shiny glimmered in the weak sunlight. He examined it and realized it was gold. He could hardly believe his eyes. The old horse had found something valuable, something that no one else had noticed before. He felt a rush of excitement, but also fear. He knew the townspeople would not believe him and might laugh or dismiss the discovery. He decided to keep it a secret for now. He covered the spot carefully and marked it in his mind as he finished the morning chores. The horse watched him as if it knew the importance of what had been found and nuzzled him gently. Days passed, and he returned to the same spot quietly at dawn. Each time he dug a little more carefully and collected small pieces of gold. He hid them in the barn where the horse slept, and no one could see. He began to feel a sense of hope that he had never experienced before. All the ridicule and loneliness of the past months seemed to fade as he realized that the horse and he together had discovered something remarkable. Worked alongside the horse in the field and tended to the other animals as usual. But now each day carried a secret thrill. He imagined what could happen if he revealed the find. He thought of paying off debts for the ranch and helping the struggling townspeople. He thought of the people who had called him useless and how surprised they would be to see his quiet perseverance turned into something valuable. Despite the excitement, he remained careful and patient. He did not rush to show anyone what he had found. He remembered all the times people had mocked him, and knew that only a careful approach would protect both the discovery and the horse. His quiet determination had become stronger, and he felt a deep bond with the animal that had led him to this moment. One afternoon, a stranger came to the ranch asking about work. The man welcomed him to help with chores, but noticed how skeptical the visitor was about the old horse. He laughed at its slow movements and its age, but the man ignored him. He had learned long ago that other people's opinions did not matter as much as his own judgment. He knew the horse had abilities that could not be seen at first glance. The stranger worked alongside him for a few days, and the horse behaved differently than anyone expected. It moved carefully and seemed to anticipate the tasks needed without being told. The man noticed the stranger's expression change from doubt to surprise and felt a quiet satisfaction. He realized that people could begin to see what he had known all along if given a chance to observe patiently. He continued to dig in secret whenever he had time. The gold was small at first, but over weeks it began to grow into a more significant amount. He counted it quietly in the barn when no one was around and felt a sense of pride that had nothing to do with recognition from others. He was proving to himself that persistence and care could yield results even in a world that often overlooked the quiet efforts of one person. The horse became his constant companion in these efforts. Its keen senses guided him to areas of the land that seemed ordinary to anyone else, but held hidden potential. The man began to understand that the horse's intuition was remarkable. He had underestimated the animal at first because of its age and appearance, but now he realized it was wiser than most people around him. As spring approached, he felt the ranch beginning to stir with life once more. The snow melted, and the fields showed signs of new growth. The animals seemed more energetic, and the chores became easier to manage. He felt a sense of renewal in himself as well. He had discovered a new strength within, and had learned to trust his own instincts and the instincts of his companion. Despite the progress he made, he still faced doubts from the townspeople. They continued to mock him and the horse when they saw them in the fields. They whispered about how foolish he was to spend so much time with an old animal that seemed to contribute nothing. Yet the man remained silent and focused on the tasks that mattered to him. He knew that time and results would speak louder than words. One day he decided to show the horse's discovery to a trusted neighbor who had once doubted him. This neighbor was kind but practical, and the man felt he could provide guidance. He led the horse to the spot and carefully uncovered some of the gold. He watched the neighbor's eyes widen in surprise and respect. The neighbor did not speak much, but his expression told the man that he had seen the value the horse had revealed. The revelation spread slowly at first. The man did not seek attention, but word traveled, and people began to realize that the old horse had indeed found something extraordinary. They came quietly to see the sight, and the man shared his story in simple words, emphasizing the patience and care that had led to the discovery. He wanted them to understand that it was not luck, but persistence and trust in what others overlooked. The horse remained calm throughout the attention. It seemed to understand that the discovery belonged to both of them and did not seek praise for itself. Its slow steps and careful movements reminded the man of how they had arrived at this moment together. Through quiet effort and determination, the ranch began to feel different. The weight of ridicule was lifted slightly as some respect grew for the man and his horse. People began to offer help and advice, and the man welcomed it, but he always stayed close to the horse, guiding it gently through the fields and chores. He knew that their bond had created the opportunity and would continue to sustain it. Evenings became a time for reflection. He would sit quietly by the barn with the horse beside him and consider how far they had come. The gold was important, but it was not the only measure of success. He thought about the mornings spent in cold air and the nights listening to the wind and the animals. He realized that the journey itself had strengthened him and the horse in ways that mattered far more than wealth. The man began to dream about the future in new ways. He imagined improving the ranch, helping the town, and creating a life where usefulness was measured not by strength or speed, but by patience and care. He understood that the horse had been his guide not only to gold, but to understanding the value of quiet work and belief in unseen potential. Days turned into weeks with the rhythm of work and discovery. The man and the horse moved together as one through the fields and barns. The townspeople watched in growing curiosity and slowly began to treat them with a mixture of respect and wonder. He continued to work patiently and quietly, knowing that the true reward was the bond he shared with the horse and the proof of what perseverance could achieve. The old horse became more than an animal on the ranch. It became a symbol of hope and unseen strength. The man often looked at it with gratitude and admiration, realizing that together they had found something extraordinary not only in the earth, but in themselves. He had learned to see value where others saw nothing, and to trust in the quiet guidance of a loyal companion. The bond and the secret discovery filled him with a sense of purpose he had never known before. He knew the world outside might still call him useless, but he had discovered that true usefulness was not measured by loud voices or fast work, but by steady care and the courage to believe in what others overlooked. Spring arrived with new warmth, and the ranch began to feel alive again. The man continued his routine of tending animals and checking fences, but now there was a sense of anticipation in his work. Each day brought him closer to understanding the true potential of the old horse. He watched its careful movements and attentive eyes and knew that their connection had grown stronger. Over the months, one morning, he decided to take the horse to a part of the land they had never explored. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness because he did not know what they might find, but he trusted the horse to guide him as it always had. The horse moved steadily through the fields, sniffing and pawing at the ground, and the man followed closely, observing every motion. After a while, the horse stopped near a patch of earth covered in wild grass. It pawed the soil and looked at him in a way that made his heart race. He knelt down and began to dig carefully, revealing another small piece of gold. He felt a rush of pride, but also caution, because he knew the discovery was valuable, and others might try to take it if they learned too soon. The man worked slowly and quietly, gathering the gold and covering the spot again. He noticed that the horse seemed to sense the importance of each find. It watched intently and nuzzled him softly. When he finished, this moment felt like a confirmation that all their patience and effort had not been wasted, that the bond they shared was leading them to something meaningful. That evening, while he cleaned the barn, the neighbor who had once doubted him visited again. The man led him to the spot and revealed a small piece of gold. The neighbor examined it carefully and nodded with quiet respect. The man realized that the acknowledgement of even one person who understood their work was more valuable than the ridicule of many who had never cared. Despite this small recognition, doubt still lingered in his mind. He worried about accidents or theft, or that others would never believe the true story of the old horse. He spent nights thinking about the future and planning cautiously for how to protect both the horse and the discovery. He knew that patience and careful steps were necessary to ensure their work would not be spoiled. One afternoon, a group of townspeople came to the ranch. They had heard rumors about the horse and its discoveries and came to see for themselves. They laughed and whispered among themselves, thinking it was a trick or exaggeration. The man did not respond. He let them observe quietly. He knew that time and proof were the only things that could convince skeptics. The horse led him through the fields and toward the patches of hidden gold. It moved with confidence and precision, showing that months of careful work had honed its instincts. The townspeople watched in growing surprise. As they saw the results of his dedication, they began to murmur in disbelief, realizing that the man and the horse had accomplished something remarkable despite the growing attention. He remained humble and focused. He did not boast or seek approval from the crowd. He continued to care for the animals, the land, and the horse with the same quiet determination that had guided him from the beginning. His sense of purpose had become stronger than any desire for recognition or praise. During this time, he faced new obstacles. The land sometimes proved difficult to dig, and the weather could turn harsh unexpectedly. One day, a storm swept across the ranch, soaking the fields and making the soil muddy and hard to work. He and the horse struggled together through the rain, but he refused to give up. He learned that perseverance through hardship was as important as the discovery itself. The horse grew stronger as well. It seemed to anticipate the man's thoughts and actions, making their work smoother and more efficient. He marveled at how the animal had transformed from a creature dismissed as useless to a partner capable of guiding him to success. The bond between them deepened and became a source of quiet strength that no one could undermine. He also began to teach the horse new skills, training it to recognize specific markers in the ground and to respond to subtle cues. He realized that the horse was not only helping him find gold, but also growing in its own way. It became more attentive, intelligent, and responsive to the world around it. Their work together was creating a new understanding of what could be achieved with patience and trust. The man's confidence grew, but he remained wary of the challenges ahead. He knew that others might try to take advantage of the situation or dismiss it as luck. He planned carefully, moving slowly and methodically to protect both the horse and the land. He wanted the story of their discovery to reflect the hard work and quiet dedication that had made it possible. He continued to gather small pieces of gold while maintaining the routines of the ranch. His days were filled with physical labor, careful observation, and a growing sense of purpose. Each evening he sat quietly with the horse, reflecting on what they had accomplished together. He felt a quiet pride in the knowledge that he had not given up despite the ridicule and doubt of others. Over time, the townspeople began to change their attitude. They saw the results of his patience and the horse's skill. They began to speak respectfully, and some even offered help in small ways. The man accepted cautiously, but always kept the horse close. He knew that the true success belonged to their partnership, and that recognition from others was secondary to the trust and bond they had built. Man often thought about the long journey that had brought him to this point. He remembered the early mornings when the horse had seemed weak and slow, and the endless ridicule he had endured. He realized that every moment of struggle had been necessary to teach patience, resilience, and the value of quiet determination. He felt grateful for the challenges that had shaped both him and the horse as summer approached. The ranch seemed transformed. The land yielded small rewards, the animals thrived, and the man's confidence grew. Each day was a balance of work, observation, and careful planning for the next discovery. The horse remained by his side, steady and reliable, guiding him with instincts that had proven invaluable. Man also began to dream about what the future might hold. He imagined the ranch thriving, the animals cared for, and the town benefiting from their discoveries. He felt hope for a life where his usefulness was recognized, not because of loud words, but because of the quiet work that had proven its value. He understood that success was measured not only in gold, but in perseverance. Patience and trust. Evenings were a time for reflection and gratitude. He would sit beside the horse in the barn and feel the warmth of their bond. It reminded him that the journey itself had been the most important lesson. The horse had shown him the power of observation, intuition, and steady effort. He knew that together they had achieved something far beyond what anyone had imagined when they first called him useless. Through each day, challenge, and discovery, he learned to embrace the quiet victories. The horse had guided him to gold, but it had also led him to a deeper understanding of his own strength and the value of seeing potential where others saw nothing. The partnership between man and horse had become a testament to patience, resilience, and the power of believing in what others overlooked. Summer brought longer days and warmer air. The ranch buzzed with life, and the man continued his careful work with the old horse. Each morning he rose with the sun and walked through the fields, observing the animals and the land. He felt a sense of purpose that had grown stronger over time, and a bond with the horse that had become unbreakable. One morning, as he checked the fences, he noticed a group of townspeople gathering near the edge of the property. They had heard rumors about the old horse and the discoveries it had led him to. They watched silently as he worked with the horse. He moved with calm confidence, guiding the horse through the fields and showing the care he had invested over months of patience. Horse moved steadily and seemed to anticipate his thoughts. Each step it took was precise and careful. The townspeople whispered among themselves in disbelief. They could see that this animal that had once been dismissed as useless was capable of something remarkable. The man continued his work quietly, not seeking attention, but letting the results speak for themselves. After ending the animals, he led the horse to a newly discovered patch of soil. The horse stopped and pawed the earth gently. He began to dig carefully, and small pieces of gold emerged. Once again, the townspeople watched in awe as the man collected the treasure and handled it with care. They began to realize that it was not luck, but patience and observation that had led to this moment. The man felt a mixture of pride and humility. He knew that the true achievement was the bond he shared with the horse and the lessons they had learned together. The townspeople approached cautiously, asking questions and offering help. Some expressed regret for doubting him in the past. He accepted their words without resentment, understanding that their recognition could not replace the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had stayed true to his work and his companion. Over the following days, the news spread slowly through the town. The discovery of gold by an old horse seemed almost unbelievable, but the evidence was clear. The man continued his careful routine, collecting small pieces of gold while tending the ranch and the animals. The horse guided him through the fields with an intuitive understanding that amazed everyone who watched. One afternoon, a rival rancher arrived, seeking to challenge the discovery. He doubted the story and wanted proof. The man remained calm and led him to the field. The horse moved with precision, revealing the hidden gold. As the rival examined the findings, he could not hide his astonishment. He began to understand the quiet skill and dedication that had made the discovery possible. Man realized that the attention could bring both opportunity and danger. He remained cautious, protecting the horse and the land. While sharing the story of their work slowly and carefully, the horse remained steady beside him, a constant source of guidance and reassurance through each challenge. The bond between man and horse grew stronger, built on trust, patience, and shared experience. Despite the growing attention, the man continued to work quietly on the ranch. He maintained his routines, feeding animals, checking fences, and observing the land. He understood that true success came from steady effort and careful planning, not from the praise or doubt of others. The horse followed his lead, moving with intelligence and sensitivity that reinforced their partnership. The man also began to train the horse in new ways, teaching it to recognize subtle changes in the ground and respond to his cues even more effectively. He marveled at its intelligence and resilience. The horse had grown stronger and more capable over the months, transforming from an animal dismissed as useless to a partner essential to the success of their work evenings. Where times of reflection, he would sit quietly by the barn with the horse beside him, considering the journey that had brought them to this point. He remembered the early mornings filled with ridicule, the lonely work, and the patient care that had guided them to discovery. He realized that the journey itself had been as valuable as the gold, teaching lessons of perseverance, trust, and belief in what others overlooked. The man also began to think about the impact of their discovery on the town. He imagined using the gold to help pay off debts, improve the ranch, and support the community. He wanted people to understand that usefulness was not always obvious, and that quiet determination could achieve remarkable results. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to use the discovery wisely. One day, a small crowd gathered as he demonstrated the horse's abilities. He carefully explained how they had found the gold through observation and patience. The crowd listened with growing admiration and respect.
Ow.
They could see that the horse's instincts and his careful guidance had made the achievement possible. He felt satisfaction not from the attention, but from sharing the truth of their work and the lessons it embodied. The man also faced challenges during this period. One morning, heavy rains washed away part of the soil where they had found gold. He worked with the horse to uncover the affected areas and recover what they could. It was hard and tiring work, but he did not give up. He knew that perseverance through adversity was part of the journey, and that giving up would mean losing the lessons learned. As summer progressed, he continued to gather gold, care for the animals, and maintain the land. The horse remained his constant companion, guiding him through each task with steady intelligence and calm assurance. They had grown to understand each other's movements, thoughts, and needs without words. The bond was a source of strength that no one could undermine. The town began to view them with a mixture of respect and wonder. People came to learn about their methods and to see the old horse that had been dismissed as useless. The man welcomed the curiosity, but remained focused on his work. He knew that true value lay in quiet effort, consistent care, and the trust he had built with his companion. He also began to plan for the future of the ranch and the community. He imagined improvements to the land, better care for the animals, and using the gold to secure a stable life for everyone involved. He felt hope for a future where his work and the horse's contributions would be recognized, not for show but for the results they had achieved. Evening, he reflected on their journey. The man and horse would sit quietly in the barn, sharing a calm companionship. He understood that the gold was only part of the story. The true achievement was the partnership, the patience, and the quiet strength they had cultivated together. It was a lesson that could not be measured in wealth alone. Through each challenge, obstacle, and moment of discovery, he learned to value patience, trust, and quiet perseverance. The old horse had shown him that even what others consider useless can hold hidden potential. The bond they shared had led them to success and to a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly useful in a world that often overlooks the quiet and persistent efforts of those who care deeply. Autumn came slowly to the ranch with cooler mornings and golden light falling over the fields. The man rose early as always and stepped into the crisp air. He looked at the old horse grazing in the field and felt a deep sense of gratitude. They'd come so far together, and the bond between them had grown stronger with each passing day. The discovery of gold had changed the way the town saw him and the horse, but he remained humble and focused on the work. He knew that respect earned through patience and effort was more meaningful than praise or recognition. He continued his daily routines, feeding the animals, checking fences, and walking the fields with the horse by his side. One morning, he led the horse to a spot on the land that had not yet been explored. He trusted its instincts as he always had, and began to dig carefully. The horse pawed the soil gently, as if encouraging him, and soon small pieces of gold emerged. The townspeople who had gathered watched silently in awe. They could see the result of patience, determination, and the quiet guidance of the horse. The man felt a sense of calm satisfaction. He understood that the discovery was not just about wealth, but about the lessons learned along the way. He had faced ridicule, doubt, and loneliness, and had persevered. He realized that usefulness is not always measured by immediate results or public approval, but by the care, attention, and persistence one invests in the world around them. The horse remained steady beside him, its movements slow but deliberate. Its eyes reflected intelligence and understanding that few could see. The man knew that their partnership had achieved something extraordinary. They had discovered not only gold, but also the value of trust, patience, and quiet determination. As the weeks passed, he continued to gather gold carefully, maintaining the land and the animals. The townspeople gradually grew to respect not only the discovery, but the method by which it had been achieved. They began to offer help and guidance, but the man kept the horse close, knowing that the true success belonged to their bond and shared effort. One afternoon, he paused in the middle of the fields and looked around at the land and the animals. He thought about how far they had come since the early mornings of ridicule and doubt. He remembered the small moments of connection with the horse, the quiet mornings in the barn, and the evenings spent reflecting on their journey. These memories filled him with a sense of accomplishment and peace. He also began to plan for the future. He wanted to improve the ranch care for the animals and use the discovery to support the community. He imagined a place where people could see that usefulness is not always loud, obvious, or immediate, but can be found in steady effort and care. He felt hope for a future that honored the lessons he and the horse had learned together. The horse became more than an animal on the ranch. It was a symbol of unseen potential and perseverance. The man often watched it move through the fields and marveled at the transformation from a creature once called useless to a partner essential to their shared success. The bond they had formed was a reminder that true value often lies hidden until someone takes the time to see it. Evenings were spent in quiet reflection. He would sit in the barn with the horse beside him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. They had faced challenges, storms, and doubt together and emerged stronger. Their partnership had shown him that patience, determination, and trust can overcome obstacles that seem insurmountable. He decided to share the story of the horse and their discoveries with the town in a simple, honest way. He did not seek praise, but wanted others to understand the value of observation, care, and perseverance. The townspeople listened with growing admiration. They could see that the horse had guided him to success, and that the man had remained patient and dedicated. Through all the challenges, the man realized that the journey had taught him more than the discovery itself. It had shown him the importance of seeing potential in what others overlook and believing in the value of quiet work. He understood that respect is earned through steady effort, and that usefulness is measured by the difference one makes through care and persistence. As autumn turned to winter, he continued his routines with the horse beside him. Each day was filled with work and observation, yet also moments of quiet satisfaction. The horse remained a constant companion, its steady presence a reminder of the power of trust and patience. Together they had achieved something remarkable, not only in gold, but in the lessons they carried Forward, the town gradually embraced the lessons of the journey. They saw that the man who had been called useless was in fact patient, intelligent, and capable. They learned that the old horse had shown them something about value that went beyond appearances and immediate results. The partnership between man and horse became an example of how perseverance and quiet determination can transform lives. The man often walked through the fields reflecting on their journey. He remembered the ridicule, the doubt, and the long hours of patient work. He also remembered the small victories, the quiet moments of connection with the horse, and the lessons learned through persistence. These memories filled him with a sense of peace and purpose. The horse continued to guide him through the land with steady intelligence. It pawed and sniffed the ground as they explored new areas and discovered small, hidden treasures. The man felt a deep sense of connection, knowing that they had achieved this together. Through careful observation, patience, and trust, they had found success and recognition that no one could take away. He also spent time teaching others about the importance of patience and careful work. He emphasized that true usefulness is not always obvious, and that quiet effort can yield remarkable results. He encouraged them to see value where others might overlook it, and to appreciate the power of steady perseverance. 7. As the town grew to respect him and the horse, the man remained focused on the work he knew. That recognition was not the goal, but a byproduct of doing what was right and believing in what others dismissed. He continued to care for the animals, maintain the land, and explore the fields, guided by the instincts of his companion. Over time, the ranch flourished. The animals thrived, the land was well cared for. The man felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond wealth or praise. He realized that the true reward had always been the partnership with the horse and the lessons learned from patience, trust, and perseverance. The bond they shared had brought them both purpose and success. The story of the man and the old horse spread slowly and became a lesson for the town. People learned that even those called useless can achieve great things. When they trust themselves and the companions who believe in them, they saw that perseverance, patience, and quiet determination can reveal hidden potential and lead to remarkable achievements in the quiet evenings. The man sat beside the horse in the barn, reflecting on the journey. They had come from ridicule and doubt to recognition and success, yet the true victory was the bond they had formed and the understanding that usefulness is measured by effort, care, and trust, not by appearances or immediate results. Together, they had proven that patience and quiet determination can uncover hidden treasures and create a lasting impact. Winter settled over the ranch. The man and the horse continued their routines. The land was peaceful and the animals were well cared for. Each day brought moments of reflection, observation, and steady work. They had discovered gold, but more importantly, they had discovered the value of perseverance, trust, and quiet companionship. They had transformed from being called useless to becoming a symbol of what careful effort and belief and unseen potential can achieve. After the long winter, the man and the horse faced a new spring. The air was fresh and filled with the sound of birds and rustling leaves. Each morning, the man rose early as always and walked across the dew-covered fields to begin his work. He felt a renewed sense of purpose and a quiet excitement for what the season might bring. The horse moved beside him steadily. Its steps were slow, but sure, and it seemed to sense what needed to be done without being told. The bond between them had grown even stronger after months of careful work and discovery. They had learned to communicate through gestures and glances, and their partnership had become seamless. The man spent the early part of the morning tending to the animals. He fed them, cleaned the stalls, and checked fences that had been damaged by storms. He did not rush. His movements were deliberate and careful. He had learned that steady effort brought results, even when others doubted him. After completing the routine chores, he led the horse to a new part of the land. He wanted to explore areas that had not yet been touched. He trusted the horse to guide him, as it always had. The horse sniffed the ground and pawed at certain spots. Its instincts were precise, and the man followed its guidance. Carefully, they came across small patches of soil that appeared ordinary at first glance. The horse pawed gently and looked at him as if to say that there was something hidden beneath. The man began to dig slowly and carefully, and soon discovered more small pieces of gold. Each find brought a sense of quiet excitement and reinforced the trust he had in the horse. The man knew that the discovery was valuable, but he also understood that it was not just the gold that mattered. It was the lessons he had learned from patience, observation, and persistence. He had been called useless for so long, and now he realized that his usefulness was shown through careful effort and the results of steady work. He continued to explore new areas of the ranch with the horse, mapping the land and identifying spots that might hold hidden treasures. The horse guided him with remarkable intuition, and he marveled at how much he had underestimated its abilities. At the beginning, the old horse that others dismissed as useless had become his most trusted partner and guide. As word of the discovery spread slowly, more townspeople came to observe. They watched in silence as the man and the horse worked together. He did not seek attention, but allowed them to see the results of quiet effort. They were surprised to see how patient and focused the man was, and how skilled the horse had become at finding the hidden pieces of gold. Despite the growing interest, he remained cautious. He knew that others could become greedy or careless. He moved slowly, revealing only small amounts at a time, and keeping the horse close. He wanted to protect the bond that had made this journey possible and ensure that the lessons of patience and trust were preserved. During one afternoon exploration, a sudden rainstorm approached. The sky darkened and heavy drops began to fall. The man quickly guided the horse to a sheltered area near a grove of trees. He waited out the storm with the horse beside him. Feeling grateful for the animal's steady presence even in the rain, he found a sense of peace, knowing that they had faced challenges together before and would face many more after the storm passed. They returned to the work with renewed determination. The soil was softer and easier to dig, and they uncovered several small nuggets of gold. The man handled each piece with care, placing them in a secure spot in the barn. He knew that the value of these discoveries lay not only in the gold itself, but in the journey, the effort, and the trust he shared with the horse. He spent evenings in quiet reflection, sitting beside the horse in the barn as the sun set outside. He thought about the ridicule he had endured and the patience he had cultivated over the months. The horse nuzzled him gently, a reminder that they had grown together and that their efforts had not been in vain. The town began to recognize the man's abilities and the horse's unique talents. They no longer saw the man as useless, but as someone who had achieved remarkable results through steady dedication. The horse, once dismissed as weak and slow, had become a symbol of intelligence and intuition that could not be ignored despite the newfound recognition. The man remained humble. He knew that true usefulness was not in the praise of others, but in the consistent effort to do what was right and to care for the world around him. The horse had taught him that value could be hidden in what others overlooked, and that patience and trust were the keys to discovery. The partnership continued to yield new results. They discovered more patches of hidden gold, and the man carefully documented each find. He began to teach a few trusted neighbors about observation and patience, showing them that usefulness is not always visible, but can be found through steady effort and attentive care. Challenges still arose. He faced difficult weather, hard soil, and occasional illness among the animals, yet he and the horse met each challenge calmly. Using their combined skills to overcome obstacles, they had learned to rely on each other and to trust the process, knowing that persistence and care would bring results even when success was not immediate. Man began to envision a long-term plan for the ranch and the community. He wanted to ensure that the land and animals would thrive, and that the discoveries could be used to support the town. He understood that the value of their efforts was in the lessons learned and the improvements that could be made, not just in the gold itself. Which day he rose with the sun and walked through the fields. Guided by the horse's instincts, the bond they shared had become a source of strength and confidence. He could anticipate the horse's movements, and the horse seemed to understand his intentions. Without words, together they moved as one, exploring new areas, caring for the animals, and uncovering hidden treasures. Evenings were a time for rest and reflection. He would sit quietly in the barn with the horse. Thinking about the journey and the challenges they had faced, the man realized that their achievements were a testament to perseverance. Trust and quiet dedication, the horse, had shown him that usefulness is often hidden, and that patience and careful observation can reveal remarkable potential. The town slowly embraced the lessons of the journey. They saw that even those once called useless could achieve greatness. When they trusted themselves and their companions, they learned that steady effort, patience, and quiet determination could uncover hidden potential and create lasting impact. Man often walked through the fields at sunset. Reflecting on their journey and the bond with the horse, he remembered the ridicule, doubt, and long hours of patient work. He also remembered the small moments of connection, the careful observation, and the steady guidance that had led to success. These reflections filled him with a sense of peace and fulfillment. The horse continued to guide him through the land with remarkable intelligence and intuition. It pawed and sniffed the ground as they explored new areas, uncovering hidden treasures and teaching him the importance of trust and patience together. They had proven that even those dismissed as useless could achieve extraordinary results through steady effort and belief in unseen potential. Man also spent time mentoring a few young people in the town, teaching them about observation, care, and perseverance. He emphasized that true usefulness is not always obvious, and that quiet, steady work can produce remarkable results. He encouraged them to see potential in what others overlook and to value the power of patience and dedication through each challenge, discovery, and quiet victory. He learned to embrace the lessons of perseverance, trust, and careful effort. The horse had guided him to gold. But more importantly, it had guided him to a deeper understanding of usefulness, patience, and the value of quiet companionship. As the seasons passed, the ranch flourished, and the town recognized the man and the horse for their contributions. They had transformed from being called useless to being respected as examples of perseverance, patience, and quiet determination. Their story became a symbol of the power of steady effort and belief in hidden potential. Man often sat beside the horse in the barn, reflecting on their journey. They had overcome ridicule, doubt, and difficult circumstances together. They had discovered gold and learned the lessons of patience, trust, and perseverance. Their partnership had proven that usefulness is measured not by appearances or immediate results, but by the effort, care, and trust one invests in the world around them. Through each day, challenge, and discovery, the man and the horse continued their routines. The land thrived. The animals were cared for, and they discovered new treasures hidden in the soil. Yet the true achievement lay in the bond they shared, the lessons they had learned, and the quiet strength they had cultivated together. They had shown that even what others call useless can hold extraordinary potential when nurtured with patience, trust, and steady effort.